The world had changed 1,000 times, but the sky still looked the same. A cold silver moon floated above the ruins of forgotten empires, and the stars burned like old memories that refused to fade. From the deep silence of space, a human ship crossed the orbit of a dead planet, its hull scarred from battles no one remembered. The name on the side was Elysium Dawn, and its captain was a man who should not have existed anymore. His name was Commander Cale Draven, born on a world that had been dust for 500,000 years. The human race was not supposed to survive this long. The machines had predicted extinction. The alien empires had written them off as history. Even the archives of the ancient galaxy listed humans as extinct, 498,723 years ago. But records were wrong. Because humans had a strange habit, they refused to disappear. Somewhere in the endless dark, they rebuilt, evolved, and returned. Now they were back among the stars, not as conquerors, but as ghosts of their own past. Cale stood on the bridge of the Elysium Dawn, watching the planet below. It was called Aetheris 9, once a human colony, now a world covered in metal and smoke. The air shimmered with static storms, and strange lights moved across its surface. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Myra Solon, broke the silence. "Commander, we're receiving a signal. It's ancient, pre-Exodus code." Cale turned slowly. "How old?" he asked. 500,000 years, she said. The crew exchanged nervous looks. No one had ever heard a human signal that old. It should have faded centuries ago. Cale walked closer to the console, his voice steady but his eyes sharp. "Play it." The sound that came through was broken and filled with static. Then a voice spoke, soft, human, and desperate. "If anyone can hear this, the sky belongs to us. Remember who we are." The message ended with a burst of static, then silence. Myra looked confused. "Is that real?" Cale didn't answer. He felt something deep inside, something ancient, a memory passed through blood and dust. The message wasn't just a signal, it was a call. "Set course for the surface," he ordered. "We're going down." The descent was rough. Lightning cracked against the ship's shields, and black clouds swallowed the sky. The crew held their breath as they broke through the storm. Below, a massive city of metal stretched across the horizon, abandoned but alive with faint blue lights. Giant towers leaned at odd angles, and huge machines stood frozen like statues of a forgotten age. When the Elysium Dawn landed, the silence felt heavy. Cale and his team stepped out, wearing armor that gleamed with silver light. Their footsteps echoed through the ruins. Every wall was marked with symbols, human symbols, but twisted and strange. Myra ran a scanner. No life signs. But energy readings everywhere. They followed the signal into a dark hall where a huge door waited. It was sealed by layers of old metal. Cale touched the surface and saw faint letters burn to life, "For the sky we keep." He felt his heart tighten. That phrase had been used by the ancient human fleets, the ones who fought the alien Dominion 500,000 years ago. They forced the door open. Inside was a vast chamber filled with sleeping machines. In the center stood a glass capsule, covered in dust and frost. Inside it was a figure, a human woman, motionless, perfectly preserved. Her eyes were closed, but her heartbeat was visible through the faint light under her skin. "She's alive," Myra whispered. Cale stepped closer. "Impossible. No one can survive that long." But the scanner confirmed it, vital signs detected. As Cale looked at her face, he felt something strange, a connection that made no sense. The woman looked familiar, like someone from his dreams. He placed his hand on the glass, and suddenly the entire chamber came alive. Lights blazed, machines stirred, and the air filled with a deep mechanical hum. Holograms flickered to life, showing stars, ships, and battles long lost to time. A voice echoed through the room. "Humanity was never meant to die. The sky remembers." The woman's eyes opened, glowing faintly blue. She looked directly at Cale. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Her voice was calm and ancient. "I am Admiral Ceres Vale. I was the last guardian of Earth. And you are the proof that we succeeded." Before anyone could react, the ground shook violently. The walls cracked, and an alarm filled the air. Myra shouted, "Commander, something's coming from orbit." Kale turned toward the sky visible through the broken ceiling. A burning shadow moved above the clouds, massive, alive, and watching. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Admiral Ceres whispered one line that froze everyone in place. "They found us again." The lights flickered, and the hum of the old machines grew louder, like a heartbeat waking after centuries of silence. Kale realized that the past wasn't dead, it was returning. And whatever waited in the sky was not human. The ground shook as if the world itself remembered the war. Dust fell from the ancient ceiling and cracks ran through the walls like veins of fear. Kale's hand tightened around his blaster while Myra tried to steady the scanner's readings. The ancient woman inside the capsule, Admiral Ceres Vale, was now fully awake, her eyes glowing with the same faint blue light that pulsed through the machines around them. "What is that in orbit?" Kale demanded, looking toward the distant roar above the clouds. Ceres stepped out of the capsule, the frost melting off her armor. Her voice was calm but filled with power. "They are called the Endar, the ones who once tried to erase us. I thought they were gone. But it seems they waited for humanity to return." Myra looked confused. "How long have they been waiting?" Ceres turned her eyes toward the ceiling. 500,000 years. "They do not sleep. They remember what we did to them." Her words made the crew exchange uneasy glances. Kale walked closer to her. "You said you were the last guardian of Earth. What happened to Earth?" Ceres took a slow breath. "Earth was destroyed in the War of Ascension. But not all of it. We sent fragments of its memory, humans, ships, knowledge, across the galaxy. We built hidden vaults like this one, waiting for the day our kind would return. You are that day, Commander." Before Kale could speak again, Myra shouted, "Commander! Multiple objects entering atmosphere. They are fast." The walls trembled as something massive pierced through the clouds outside. Through the shattered roof, Kale could see dark shapes falling from the sky, metallic, sharp, alive. Ceres moved with sudden energy. "We need to reach the core chamber. There is a weapon here. Something that was never meant to be used again." Kale didn't like the sound of that, but he nodded. "Lead the way." They ran through the corridors as the ground kept shaking. The ruins were alive now, the walls glowing with blue veins of light that followed their movement. It was as if the ancient city recognized Ceres. Every gate opened automatically for her. Myra whispered to Kale, "It's like she built this place." Ceres heard her but didn't look back. "I did," she said. At the heart of the city stood a massive chamber filled with machines that reached the ceiling. In the center, a spherical object floated above a pedestal, rotating slowly. It looked like a small sun trapped inside a shell of metal and light. Ceres approached it carefully. "This is the solar core. It was the heart of our defense system. It can burn through entire fleets. But it requires something to awaken it, a human link." Kale frowned. "A human link?" Ceres turned to him, her eyes scanning his face. "You." Kale took a step back. "Why me?" "Because your blood carries the echo of command. You are a descendant of the First Fleet's captain. The core will only answer to that bloodline." Before Kale could respond, the sky outside lit up with fire. Explosions shook the city, and through the cracks they could see massive ships descending, black, jagged vessels with burning red engines. The Endar had arrived. Ceres looked at Kale with urgency. "If you don't link with the core now, this world will fall before you take your next breath." Kale hesitated, then stepped forward. The sphere pulsed as he placed his hand on it. The light grew brighter, wrapping around his arm and crawling up to his chest. Pain shot through him, but he didn't pull away. The machines roared to life, ancient circuits humming with power not felt in 500,000 years. Suddenly, Kale saw flashes in his mind. Battles fought in burning skies, humans standing against endless alien armies, ships tearing through space like living fire. He saw Earth's last stand, the fall of oceans, the death of suns. And through all of it, a single phrase echoed, "The sky belongs to us." When he opened his eyes again, the entire chamber was glowing. Myra shielded her face from the brightness. "Commander, your eyes," she shouted. Kale's eyes now shone the same blue as Ceres's. The core had accepted him. Outside, The Endar ships fired energy blasts that struck the ground like meteors. The city shook violently. Ceres turned toward Kale. Now command it. The core will listen. Kale raised his hand, and the ground responded. From beneath the ruins, giant machines began to rise, ancient human war machines, rusted but still alive. Towers transformed into cannons, and huge wings unfolded from buried structures. The old defense system was waking up. The Endar fleet opened fire again, but this time the human city answered. Beams of blue energy shot from the ground into the sky, tearing through alien ships with blinding precision. The air trembled with thunder and light. Myra stared in awe. We're fighting them, after 500,000 years. Kale stood beside Ceres, watching the burning sky. You said this weapon wasn't meant to be used again, he said quietly. Ceres nodded. It wasn't. Because it doesn't stop. Once awakened, it fights until there is nothing left to fight. Kale's expression hardened. Then we'd better make sure it wins. Above them, the sky turned into fire as human weapons clashed again with the enemies of their ancient past. And deep within the core's glow, something else began to awaken, something older than even Ceres remembered. The war that ended humanity was starting again. But this time, humanity was not the one running. The sky burned with blue and red fire. The ancient human city had awakened from its 500,000-year sleep, and the air trembled under the roar of weapons not heard in ages. From the control chamber, Kale watched as the defense towers fired upward, striking the alien fleet with beams of light that cut through the clouds. The ground itself was alive, pulsing with the power of the solar core. Targets locked, Myra shouted as her console flickered with data. But they just keep coming. Kale stood in the center of the room, his hand still glowing faintly from the core link. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the machines. He could feel the city's systems like nerves running under his skin. Every tower, every cannon, every drone, it was all connected to him. Admiral Ceres moved beside him, her voice calm but edged with tension. You can control them all. But do not lose yourself to the core. It was built for power, not mercy. Kale gritted his teeth. If it keeps us alive, I don't care what it was built for. Outside, the Endar ships circled the planet like dark birds. Their hulls shimmered with black light, bending gravity around them. One of the alien cruisers fired a pulse beam that sliced through an entire section of the city. The explosion shook the control room, throwing Myra to the floor. Kale turned sharply. Myra, report. I'm fine, she said, coughing. But we lost the eastern batteries. If they keep that up, the core's shield will collapse. Ceres walked to the main console and placed her palm on the glass. A projection appeared, a map of the ancient world. Lines of blue light stretched across it, connecting to forgotten outposts. There are other cores, she said softly, hidden under the planet's crust. They were designed to activate together, but the signal was never sent. Kale looked at her. Can we reach them? Ceres nodded slowly. If you extend your link, the core might connect to them. But it will take something from you. What do you mean? It feeds on life energy, on memory. The more you give, the more it awakens. You could lose parts of yourself, forever. Kale stared at the glowing core. He could already feel it whispering inside his mind, showing him flashes of lives that weren't his. Ancient soldiers. Dying worlds. A child looking at stars that no longer existed. He took a deep breath. If I don't, everyone dies. That's not a choice. Ceres didn't argue. She just whispered, then remember who you are, Commander. Kale placed his hand on the core again. Light exploded from the sphere, flooding the chamber. His body stiffened as visions poured into his mind. He saw distant vaults buried beneath mountains, under oceans, inside moons. One by one, they awakened. Across the planet, the earth cracked and glowed blue. Massive constructs rose from the ground, machines of war built by the ancestors of mankind. Myra shielded her eyes. It's working. Multiple energy sources online. Kale gasped, his voice trembling. I can see them all. He was everywhere at once, fighting through the eyes of drones, flying through burning skies, feeling the impact of every strike. The core was turning him into the mind of the planet. Then he heard another voice, cold, distant, and not human. It came from beyond the stars, echoing through the network. "We remember you, human. We remember your fire." Kale froze. "Ceres, they're talking to me." Ceres's face went pale. "Disconnect now. The end are linked to minds. If you let them in, they will consume you." But it was too late. Kale saw flashes of alien worlds, creatures made of shadow and metal, harvesting stars, burning civilizations. He saw how the Endar had waited all this time, hiding in the folds of dark space, feeding on the energy of dead suns. Then the voice spoke again, closer this time. "Your kind stole the light. We only take it back." Kale's body shook violently. The lights in the chamber flickered. Myra grabbed his shoulder. "Commander, stop. You're overloading the system." He forced himself to pull away. The connection broke with a sound like thunder. Kale fell to his knees, breathing hard. The core dimmed slightly, but the planet's weapons kept firing. Ceres knelt beside him. "You saw them, didn't you?" Kale nodded weakly. "They're not machines. They're alive. And they hate us." Outside, the battle reached its peak. The Endar fleet rained fire across the surface, but the awakened cores answered with blinding force. Dozens of alien ships exploded, lighting the clouds with white fire. For a moment, it looked like victory. Then the sky opened. A shadow larger than the moon appeared above the clouds, a Endar mothership, ancient and monstrous. Its surface rippled like liquid darkness, and its gravity pulled the clouds into a swirling storm. Myra whispered, "That's not possible. That thing's the size of a continent." Ceres's expression turned grim. "It's not a ship. It's a world-eater. It devours suns. They've brought their god." The core pulsed with panic, sensing the threat. Kale forced himself to stand. "Then we stop it here. This planet will not fall." Ceres looked at him, her voice low and heavy. "If we fight that thing, the core might destroy everything, including you." Kale met her gaze, his eyes glowing faintly blue again. "Then it's a good death. Better than extinction." The ground shook once more as the Endar world ship charged a massive energy beam aimed at the planet. The sky went white, and every human machine on the surface prepared to fire back. 500,000 years after their extinction, humanity stood again beneath a burning sky, ready to fight for the stars that still belonged to them. The light from the alien mothership filled the sky like a second sun. The storm clouds around it twisted into a spiral of burning plasma, and the sound of its engines was like the voice of a dying star. On the surface, the ancient human city trembled. Buildings cracked, and the solar core pulsed violently, reacting to the massive energy building above them. Kale stood in the control chamber, staring up at the screen that showed the dark shape blotting out the heavens. "That thing isn't just a ship," he said quietly. "It's a weapon." Admiral Ceres nodded slowly. "A living weapon. The Endar godships were built from the remains of dying stars. They feed on energy, life, and memory. Once they begin, they don't stop." Myra's voice trembled as she read the data from her console. "Commander, it's charging something. I think it's targeting the core itself." Kale turned toward Ceres. "If it destroys the core, everything we just reawakened dies with it." Ceres looked at the glowing sphere, then back at Kale. "There is another option," she said softly. "Beneath this planet lies the heart of the ancient human defense system, the Alios engine. It was meant to be humanity's final weapon. But it was never used because it could consume entire worlds." Myra's eyes widened. "Consume worlds?" Ceres nodded. "It draws power from the planet's core. Once activated, it can destroy anything within its reach. But it leaves nothing behind." Kale looked at her, his jaw tightening. "You're saying to save humanity, we might have to destroy this world?" Ceres didn't answer, but her silence said enough. Outside, the ground shook again as the mothership's beam began to glow brighter. The core responded, its light flickering between blue and white. It was fighting to defend itself, but the energy from the Endar weapon was too strong. Kale felt the hum of the core through the floor. It was alive, aware, and afraid. He touched the console. "Show me the Alios engine." The map appeared before him, a glowing model of the planet. Deep beneath the surface, hidden under layers of rock and steel, a massive structure pulsed faintly. Its design was old, older than anything Kale had ever seen, but it was human. Ceres spoke quietly. The Helios engine connects directly to the solar core. If you merge them, it will unleash everything our ancestors built to survive the end. Myra turned toward Kale. If you do this, Commander, there's no going back. We'll burn the planet, the city, everything. Kale looked at both of them. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the fire of decision. If we don't do it, we die anyway. And humanity dies with us. Ceres stepped closer. Then let it be done. But once you start the merge, you must stay connected until it finishes. The core will need a living link. Kale understood. He would not survive it. But there was no hesitation in his voice. Prepare the connection. Myra's hand shook as she activated the sequence. Commander, you don't have to do this alone. I do, he interrupted. The core chose me. It knows my voice. It knows my blood. The chamber filled with light as the systems began to merge. The floor split open, revealing streams of energy flowing downward into the planet's depths. The core rose from its pedestal, spinning faster and faster, its light turning blinding white. Kale placed both hands on it. The moment he did, a surge of power shot through his body, lifting him slightly off the ground. His veins glowed blue, his eyes burned like stars, and his mind expanded far beyond human limits. He saw the planet's heart. He saw the Helios engine waking up after 500,000 years. Massive gears turned deep underground, and rivers of molten energy began to rise toward the surface. Ceres watched in silence, her face unreadable. The core is merging, she whispered. Outside, the alien mothership opened its main cannon. A crimson beam of energy burst downward, hitting the city like the wrath of a god. The blast tore through towers and melted the ground. For a moment, it seemed the world itself would break apart. But then the core responded. A shockwave of white-blue light exploded outward, pushing the beam back toward the sky. The energy struck the mothership head-on. The alien godship roared, its dark surface cracking, pieces of molten armor breaking away into space. Kale's voice echoed through the chamber, deeper and layered, as if more than one voice spoke through him. The sky belongs to us. The core's power spread across the planet. Mountains split open, oceans boiled, and the entire world became a single pulse of living energy. The Helios engine awakened fully, and from the center of the city, a massive column of light shot straight into space, piercing through the alien ship. The Endar fleet began to disintegrate one by one, their ships burning into dust. But the energy was spreading too fast. Myra screamed over the noise, Commander, it's overloading. You have to stop. Kale didn't answer. His body was surrounded by light now, dissolving into it. Ceres stepped forward, tears in her eyes, though she hadn't cried in centuries. He can't stop. He is the core now. Outside, the beam grew brighter, tearing through the stars. The Endar mothership broke apart with a final, silent explosion that lit the void. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything went quiet. The light faded. The storm cleared. The planet was scarred but alive. The alien fleet was gone. The core's chamber was silent, except for a faint blue glow that floated where Kale once stood. Myra fell to her knees, whispering, Commander. Ceres looked up at the sky. He kept his promise. The sky still belongs to humans. But as the silence stretched, far beyond the dead alien fleet, something in the darkness moved. A faint red light blinked once, then vanished. The war was over. But something out there had seen. And it was coming. The light was gone. The sky, once burning with war, was now quiet and filled with soft clouds that glowed faintly under a distant sun. The planet had survived, but it no longer looked the same. The once metallic city was now covered in blue crystal and molten scars, the remains of a battle too powerful for time itself. Admiral Ceres stood among the ruins, her armor dimmed, her expression unreadable. Around her, smoke rose from the broken towers. The silence was heavy. No sound of engines, no sign of Kale, no hum from the core. It was as if the planet had fallen asleep again after a nightmare. Myra stumbled over debris, her uniform torn, her face streaked with dirt and tears. She called out, her voice cracking. "Commander! Kale! Can you hear me?" Her words echoed into the ruins but came back with only the wind. Ceres walked toward the center of the chamber where the solar core once stood. The pedestal was empty now. Only a faint sphere of blue light floated above it, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. She reached out her hand, but the light flinched away before returning to its place. It was alive, something left behind. Myra walked closer, her eyes wide. "Is that him?" Ceres nodded slowly. "Yes. Or at least, what remains of him." The core absorbed his mind, his essence. He became part of the planet itself. Myra shook her head. "There has to be a way to bring him back." Ceres's voice was calm but distant. "He made his choice. He gave himself to save us all. The core doesn't destroy, it transforms. Maybe, in some way, he's still watching." They stood there in silence, watching the faint light. Then a low hum began to fill the air. The crystal floor under their feet started to glow, forming lines of light that spread outward. The symbols of the ancient human fleet appeared again, sharp, glowing runes that moved like living language. Myra gasped. "It's activating something." Ceres stepped back, her eyes narrowing. "No, it's a message." The light from the core expanded, and suddenly the chamber filled with a projection. A hologram of Kale appeared before them. His image flickered, transparent, his face calm and filled with strange peace. "Admiral Ceres, Lieutenant Myra," his voice said, echoing through the hall. "If you're seeing this, then the merge is complete. The Alios engine and the core have stabilized. The Endar fleet has been destroyed." Myra covered her mouth. "He recorded this." Kale's image continued. "But this isn't over. During the merge, I saw something beyond the Endar. Something older. Something that controls them." His tone darkened. "They call it the Silence. It waits between stars. It consumes civilizations when they grow too strong. It almost found us." Ceres's eyes hardened. He saw the truth. Kale's hologram looked directly at them. "I locked a signal in the core's heart. It's a path, a map, to the origin of the Silence. If humanity is to survive, someone must follow it. Not to fight it, but to understand it." The image flickered again, his last words soft and heavy. "The sky belongs to us. Keep it that way." The projection faded, leaving only the glowing sphere pulsing in silence. Myra stood frozen, her eyes filled with tears. He knew. He saw what's coming. Ceres stepped closer to the orb. "Then his fight isn't finished. Neither is ours." She reached for the console beside the pedestal. Though half buried in crystal, the system still responded to her touch. The screen lit up, showing coordinates deep within the Orion expanse, far beyond known human space. The same direction where Kale's map pointed. Myra frowned. "That's outside the old colonies. There's nothing there." Ceres shook her head. "There was nothing there 500,000 years ago. But now, we can't be sure." Outside, the wind began to howl. The faint blue dust in the air rose upward, forming a spiral toward the heavens. The planet was healing, but the core's energy was spreading. Small crystals lit up across the horizon, like stars reborn on the ground. Myra turned to Ceres. "If we leave, what happens to this place?" Ceres looked toward the horizon. "It becomes a beacon. Every human signal, every ship across the stars, will see this light. They'll know humanity still lives." Myra nodded slowly. "Then we go after the signal. For Kale." Ceres turned toward the wreckage of the Elysium Dawn. The ship was damaged, its hull cracked and engines silent. Yet something in it still glowed faintly. She placed her hand on the cold metal. "She'll fly again. She was built to survive." For days they worked in silence, repairing what they could. The planet itself seemed to help. Metal melted and reshaped, systems hummed to life as if guided by unseen hands. It was as if Kale himself was helping them rebuild, through the core that now carried his soul. Finally, as the sky turned silver, the Elysium Dawn rose once more. Its engines glowed blue, powered by fragments of the core's energy. Myra stood at the controls, and Ceres watched the horizon one last time. "Goodbye, Commander," she whispered. "You gave us back the sky." The ship lifted off, cutting through the clouds. As it rose into the stars, the light from the planet followed, spreading outward like a signal across the galaxy. Deep within the core, the blue light pulsed once. A faint voice echoed, too soft for anyone to hear. "We are still here." Far away, in the cold edge of space, a single red light blinked again. It was waiting, watching, and listening. The silence had noticed. And humanity's next war had just begun. The stars stretched endlessly ahead as the Elysium Dawn drifted through the dark. Its engines glowed a faint blue, powered by the energy of the solar core, and its hull carried scars from battles that no one would ever forget. The silence of space pressed against the ship, broken only by the hum of the reactor and the faint whispers of the ship's systems. Inside the command deck, Admiral Ceres stood beside Lieutenant Myra, both staring at the holographic map floating in the air. The coordinates Kale had left for them glowed faintly, a pulsing blue mark deep inside the Orion expanse. It was an area long erased from star charts, a place where no human had flown for hundreds of thousands of years. "How far?" Ceres asked quietly. Myra checked the readings. 4 jumps. Maybe less if the core's power holds steady. Ceres nodded. "Then we move fast. The silence will not stay asleep for long." Myra hesitated. "Do you really think it's watching us? That something's out there." Ceres looked out the window at the stars. "It's always been watching. That's how it wins, it waits." Hours passed in near silence. The ship crossed through fields of drifting debris, ancient remains of forgotten wars. Once, they passed a broken station, its metal surface carved with symbols of the old human empire. Myra stared as they floated by. 500,000 years, she whispered. "And our ghosts still float out here." Ceres said nothing. Her mind was on the message Kale had left behind. The silence waits between stars. It consumes civilizations when they grow too strong. That single line replayed in her thoughts over and over. When they reached the edge of the Orion expanse, the stars began to fade. The darkness here was different, thicker, heavier. It felt alive. The sensors flickered with static. "Something's interfering," Myra said. "It's like the whole area is humming." "Stay on course," Ceres ordered. A moment later, a shape appeared ahead, massive, circular, orbiting a dim red star. It wasn't an alien structure. It was human. A colossal ring station, half collapsed, half alive. Myra's mouth fell open. "It's a city, in orbit." Ceres's eyes narrowed. "No. It's a fortress." They approached slowly, the Elysium Dawn's lights cutting through the dust. The closer they came, the clearer it became. This was an ancient human stronghold, built from the same design as the old core worlds. On its side, worn and cracked but still visible, were the words, "Ark Haven." Myra's hands shook as she read it. That name's in the old fleet archives. It was one of the last evacuation colonies before the War of Ascension. Ceres nodded. "Which means there might still be survivors, or something worse." They docked at a broken hangar, stepping out into silence. The station was dark, filled with floating dust and echoes of long-dead systems. The air smelled of metal and age. Myra swept her flashlight across the walls. Faded banners hung, marked with the old human symbol, the twin wings of Sol Command. 500,000 years, Myra said softly. And it's still here. As they moved deeper, lights flickered on. One by one, the station came alive, sensing their presence. The ancient systems began to hum weakly. A voice, mechanical but human, echoed through the corridor. "Welcome, Command Authority. Identification required." Ceres froze. "That's an old AI protocol." She stepped forward. "Admiral Ceres Vale, Sol Command Authorization Delta 7. The lights brightened. Recognition confirmed. Admiral Ceres Vale. Status, presumed deceased. Archive access granted. Myra's eyes widened. "It recognized you." Ceres frowned. That means it's been waiting. They entered the central command hall. In the center stood a massive crystal-like structure, humming faintly. Around it floated hundreds of stasis pods, still sealed. Inside each one, humans. Myra gasped. They're alive. Ceres approached the pods slowly. Cryo-sleep. Perfect preservation. These are the survivors of the last fleet. The Ari's voice filled the room again. Admiral, we have waited 500,000 years for reactivation. The war never ended. We require command directives. Ceres looked at Myra, then back at the crystal. Show me what happened here. The room dimmed. Holograms flickered to life, chaotic images of the final days of humanity. Battles. The Endar invasion. The fall of Earth. The desperate escape into space. The creation of the Arcs. And finally, one image that froze Ceres where she stood, Kale Draven's bloodline registry. Myra frowned. Commander Kale's ancestors. Ceres nodded slowly. This was his home. His bloodline started here. The AI continued. The Arcs carried humanity's last spark. But we were found. We sealed ourselves away to hide from the silence. We have remained in stasis since then. Ceres turned sharply. The silence came here. Yes, the AI replied. It touched this system. But it did not consume it. It marked it. It waits still. Suddenly, the station lights dimmed. The red star outside flickered, and every console in the room displayed a single red symbol, a circle with a line through it, pulsing slowly. Myra's voice trembled. What is that? Ceres's tone dropped. It's the mark of the silence. A low vibration filled the air. The crystal at the center began to pulse faster. The Ari's voice glitched. Warning. External contact detected. Unknown energy signature, origin, deep space. Ceres grabbed Myra's arm. Back to the ship. Now. They ran through the corridors as the lights turned red. Outside, the dark sky rippled. A faint tear appeared near the red star, spreading wider, darker, deeper. It wasn't light, it was the absence of light. Myra shouted, it's pulling power from the station. Ceres turned, her voice calm despite the fear in her eyes. No, Lieutenant. It's feeding. The tear widened. Shapes moved inside it, shadows without form, alive and cold. For the first time, Myra truly understood Kale's warning. The silence waits between stars. And now, it had found them. The sky outside the Arkhaven station tore open like a wound. The stars vanished behind waves of living shadow. The silence had arrived. It moved without sound or light, a vast presence that made space itself twist and fold. Every system on the Elysium dawn screamed warnings as energy readings spiked far beyond normal limits. Inside the command deck, Admiral Ceres stood rigid, watching as the void spread like ink across the cosmos. Lieutenant Myra gripped the console, eyes wide with fear. It's eating the star, she whispered. It's feeding on the light. Ceres's voice was calm, almost too calm. That's how it begins. That's how entire galaxies disappeared. The ship trembled as waves of dark energy brushed against its hull. The AI of Arkhaven flickered into view on the bridge holoscreen, a faint, transparent figure shaped like a woman. Admiral, the station cannot withstand this. The containment field is collapsing. Can we use the solar core to repel it? Ceres asked. Negative, the AI replied. It would only attract the silence further. It consumes energy, any energy. Ceres clenched her fists. Then we need another way. Myra suddenly looked up from her station. Wait, the data Kale left behind, it mentioned a failsafe hidden in the core. Ceres turned sharply. Show me. Myra pulled up the encrypted files, fragments of Kale's message flashing across the screen. Words appeared, half broken, half intact. When the stars fall silent, ignite the human spark, remember who we are. The Ari's hologram shimmered. That sequence matches an ancient command protocol. It is connected to the Arkhaven's heart engine. What does it do? Myra asked. It creates light, the AI said simply. Not fuel, Not power, pure light. The first light of Sol. Ceres stared out the viewport at the spreading darkness. Then that's what we need. Prepare the heart engine. The station groaned as massive energy conduits began to awaken, long dormant systems coming alive. The humans in cryo-sleep remained frozen in silence, their pods glowing faintly in the growing darkness. Myra worked fast, rerouting power from the Elysium Dawn to the Ark Haven. The Ari's voice echoed through the chamber. Activation sequence initiated. Core temperature rising. Outside, the silence reacted. The darkness rippled and coiled, pressing closer. It could feel the shift, the human defiance that refused to fade. The Elysium Dawn shook violently as a massive wave struck its hull. Shields at 30%. Myra shouted. We can't hold much longer. Ceres steadied herself, her voice calm. We don't hold. We finish what they started. In the command hall, the crystal at the center of the Ark Haven pulsed faster. The heart engine began to glow, sending beams of light through the ancient corridors. The Ari's voice faltered for a moment, then returned stronger. Light levels reaching critical mass. Admiral, you must enter the core chamber to complete ignition. Ceres nodded. Myra, keep the ship ready to launch. If I fail. Myra cut her off. You won't. Ceres gave a small, grim smile. That's an order, Lieutenant. She left the bridge and entered the central core chamber. The walls glowed with golden veins of energy, and at the center stood the heart engine, a floating sphere of radiant light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ceres stepped closer. Her reflection shimmered in the glow. She could feel it calling to her. The same energy that once powered humanity's first ships now waited for her touch. Kale's voice echoed faintly in her memory. The sky belongs to us, Ceres. Even if the stars die, the light will remember. She placed her hand on the sphere. The heart engine flared to life. Light exploded through the station, pure and brilliant. The shadows screamed, not with sound, but with fury. The void twisted and shattered as the light expanded outward, pushing back the silence. It recoiled, collapsing in on itself, unable to consume what was never meant to be devoured, hope. The Elysium Dawn sensors went white, blinded by the radiance. Myra shielded her eyes as the ship vibrated with the shockwave. Admiral, she called, but there was no answer. Then the wave passed. The light faded to a soft glow. The red star outside now burned golden once more, its brilliance restored. The void was gone. The silence had vanished. Myra's voice trembled. Ceres, do you copy? For a long moment, there was nothing. Then, through the static, Ceres's calm voice came through the comms. Still here, Lieutenant. The heart engine is stable. Myra laughed in relief. You did it. Ceres looked around the chamber. The pods around her were opening one by one, releasing the preserved humans from cryo-sleep. The first survivors of the old world took their first breaths in 500,000 years. Ceres spoke softly. No, we did it. Humanity did it. Outside, the star systems around them flickered with new light. Beacons reactivated across forgotten worlds. The ancient network of human colonies began to wake, one after another. Myra watched from the bridge, tears in her eyes. Admiral, it's spreading. The light is spreading through the whole sector. Ceres smiled faintly. Then Kale was right. The sky still belongs to us. The AI appeared beside her, its voice softer now, almost human. The silence is gone, for now. But it will return one day. Ceres nodded. Then it will find us ready. As the Ark Haven floated beneath the reborn sun, the Elysium Dawn powered up its engines once again. Humans had survived the dark, not because of power, or weapons, or machines, but because they remembered what no other species ever could. They remembered light. And across the stars, where ancient ruins once drifted and empty worlds slept, a new dawn began. 500,000 years later, the sky still belonged to humans.